Hi, all. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Adam Ball, your host, and today I am joined with Petra. Petra, I am so glad to have you on. Why don't you just take a quick minute and introduce yourself?
Thank you, Adam, and I'm happy to be here. My name is Petra Thomas. I use she, her pronouns, and I am looking for my next adventure in the tech space.
Awesome.
I'm based in today sunny West Seattle, and hoping to enjoy some of that sunshine later today.
Absolutely. I know it's that time of year for you to get that where you get out of the winter doom and gloom of clouds, right?
Yep.
And so definitely need to take advantage of some of that sun. Makes such a difference. So Petra, if you could, we've had the pleasure of meeting a few times in the past, and so why don't you just tell us about some of the skills that you've used in the past that have made you successful, and then maybe talk about as you go forward, like what do you want to be doing in your next adventure?
Yeah, happy to. I think there's the things that I bring to the table, which or the combination thereof, which may be of benefit, which I found being useful, is first off being a connector. I love the idea of bringing a person together or a team that has an issue that needs to be solved and somebody that may have the solution, especially when they don't speak the same language and they don't necessarily see the value in each other's challenges and solutions. So being able to translate the issue into language that the potential problem solver can understand and say, yeah, we can do that. Then bringing them together and being the bridge. And it might be something like, security teams and development teams, is a good example where development team says, hey, we need an exception to be able to deploy this thing. And security says, nope, not giving you an exception, which is what you'd expect them to. But then if you phrase things in a different way, you may be able to find some common ground. So actively listening and then being able to translate that in a way that will have some chance of success with the other group has been something that I've been successful at. And part and parcel with that goes customer empathy. You have to have that empathy with a customer, be it internal or external, to be able to try and answer the question of so what. When it's, hey, we've just announced a new feature. Look at this, and it's like, so what? Like, they're looking at it operationally and saying, I have to deploy this across 10,000 desktops. Why do I want to do this? When I just deployed something a little while ago that was the latest and greatest. Give me a reason, something that aligns to the way I do business. And if you can come in with that point of view ahead of time and say, hey, this thing we were talking about, this might help. Why don't you try it on some of your 10 users and see? And then if it goes well, then we'll get together again and decide. And being able to approach it that way instead of, hey, I've got a PowerPoint with a whole bunch of features, and by the way, our feature list is longer than the other guys, so we must be better. Is not really a good way to do it. And then I would say the third is being able to translate technology into something that is real life. So the earlier part with the empathy was answering the question of so what with a customer, trying to appeal to what is value to them and which will help them to achieve their business outcomes and also their operational ones. But there's another part to it of having started life as a developer and then work my way through doing a lot of field work, doing operations at scale, and then also then in the sales space and supply chain is another area, is I think I have enough knowledge in multiple disciplines to be dangerous at times, and being able to change the way I approach different teams. And there are many times when I don't know, but it's a case of, well, I know this, so tell me how this aligns, and then that'll get them going and say, oh, you know about that thing? Okay.
Yeah.
And doing some reading ahead of time and being able to say, well, I get this, but apparently you know all about this part. And then nobody likes more than the idea of talking about themselves and something that they feel they're good at. So now you kind of pump them up a little bit and say, well, yeah, it's like goes like this and this and this, And I said, well, how do I find out more about this? Well, I'll go to so and so. Okay, well, I'll tell them I'm going to name drop you. Is that okay? So now I've got even more credibility when I go to the next team.
Yeah.
And between all of that, you can knit that together and then come up with a comprehensive view that actually meets the outcome that you need. So I think having that, being a geek at heart,
Yeah.
but also having the ability to listen and being able to say, well, so what you're saying is this, then that together, I think, has helped me to succeed in terms of some of the projects which I've been most happy about.
Yeah, it sounds like you mentioned being a connector and just being able to translate some of those. Sometimes different groups speak differently, and being able to understand and being able to translate so that the two groups can actually understand each other. Sometimes we just need that person who can say, I heard what you said. Let me turn around and tell it to them in their language or their syntax so that they can grasp it. Because right now, the blockers right here. So that's a really astounding. So as you look forward, and we kind of were talking about this in what you're looking to do is just, hey, I want to be more of a connector again. It sounds like.
Correct.
What would your perfect adventure be for your next adventure?
I would like to help advance the wonderful tech we have in the accessibility space to a wider audience. And all too often companies view this as, here's something we have to do as a legal requirement, and to me that's the wrong approach. I have open discussions with people and said, how many of you watch Netflix with captions on? And you always get a few hands going up.
Mm-hmm.
I said, do you consider yourself hard of hearing? Well, no. Then why do you do it? Well, it helps with the overall experience. Well, yeah, it helps with your retention, your understanding of what's going on. Completely get it. And so the being able to, first off, make the accessibility tools that exist in our technology, be they Microsoft tools or tools from Google or others, or screen readers, and viewing their adoption not as this is something we have to do or we'll wait until somebody asks for it, which then involves covering, which is something that I have personal experience with, and something which people are loath to do. I met somebody a few years ago who had deteriorating vision and waited 9 years before they shared with their co-workers. They were faking it. They were using every tool they could find under the sun to try and do it because they thought, if that happens, now I'm going to be othered. I'm going to be treated a little bit differently. 70% of disabilities are invisible. 70, and then when it comes to accessibility needs, there's temporal, temporary, and permanent. And most of us at one point or another have made use of some of that tooling. So it's looking at the adoption and change management around that and how to make people comfortable with discovering and using the accessibility tooling that exists and do it at scale. And that will take... Awesome. So that would be, it's a bit technical, it's customer facing, and it's also exposing something which, by and large, is often already there. I could go on and on about what tooling exists, but it's how do you make it discoverable? How do you get it into the hands of people that need it? So
yeah. Absolutely. It sounds really fascinating too about just how you can help empower people to be able to be their best ultimately, which is pretty awesome. I think that's a really neat passion. So I know, so like we talked about, this is just kind of try to get a quick glimpse into you. So what I'd like to do is have you just tell people how do they actually get a hold of you? What's the best way so that they can have a deeper conversation? Because I'm sure there's some folks out there who now want to have a conversation with you about some of those enablements of how they can help their coworkers, or how you might even be able to help their coworkers be able to utilize those tools.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. My LinkedIn is great. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. As well as my email address, which should I give it to you verbally, or will you attach it with the...
No, so why don't you do this? Actually, because we're going to end up I don't want to end up having you get a ton of spam. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put your LinkedIn profile in the show notes, and people can reach out there. I usually like to do that. And then if you choose, you can actually respond back with email from that standpoint.
Okay,
Obviously,
sounds good.
unfortunately, in this day and age of bots scanning websites for email addresses, you end up with just way more. So I was just going to take it there. Wasn't sure. Sometimes people have websites that they want people to go to reach out and contact. So that's why I asked. But what we're going to do for all the listeners and all the watch viewers on this, I'm going to put the look down in the show notes. Feel free to reach out to Petra and at least make a new friend at the very least, like I have. And so from there, but Petra, so thank you so much for coming on, and we're hopeful that you will find your next adventure very, very quickly.
Thank you. Thanks, Adam.